right, you guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Now, it has been nearly 1 year since we have gotten any official news regarding the sequel to Breath of the Wild. The last time we saw it was during the gameplay reveal at E3 2021, where we did get to see some tidbits of gameplay featuring new mechanics. We didn't get an official release date, we got a release window. That was the first reveal of the 2022 release date, and that has been about it. We were hopeful to see something at the Direct last month, but it was also seemingly absent. As far as we know, Breath of the Wild 2 is still set to release in 2022, despite the fact that Pokemon Gen 9 Scarlet and Violet is also releasing in the holiday season of this year. But this raises the important question: when will we see the game next? Furthermore, when does Nintendo plan on revealing the title and finally give us a release date for the game? Hey everyone, Wes here. Welcome back to the channel once again, and to get started, we are going to be tackling the main part of this video. When the heck are we going to see Breath of the Wild 2 again? So as you guys may or may not know, this week marked the 5th anniversary since the release of the Nintendo Switch and Breath of the Wild at the same time. So I was expecting Nintendo to do something, but alas, that was also not the case. Now, when it comes to the way that Nintendo markets their products, one thing I recommend keeping in mind and take it to heart is we will never truly know what they have cooking up their sleeves. For some games, they do an initial teaser and then drip feed us content throughout the time leading up to the launch, and others, they just hot drop a trailer and release the game in the following weeks. The biggest point that I've got to drive home is do not expect Nintendo to be predictable. I've been down the rabbit hole of trying to predict them. It usually never ends up working out in my favor, so save your sanity and kind of just let them do their thing is what I should be saying. So instead of taking a deep dive, let's just dip our toes into the Nintendo marketing rabbit hole. If we take a look at every announcement, teaser, and reveal we've gotten for Breath of the Wild 2, one of the more obvious patterns is the E3 General Direct. During E3 2019 Direct, we got our first look at the sequel, and that's where they announced the development. Fast forward 2 years, during the E3 2021 Direct, we got the gameplay reveal. So if history repeats itself again, I would say that this year's E3 2022, or just the summertime usually when E3 takes place, is our best bet on when we will see the game next. Now, this may or may not be the case. With E3 kind of up in the air, it's really hard to determine if Nintendo plans on giving us a General Direct this summer. It could be that Nintendo decides to give us a Direct later this year, focused solely on Breath of the Wild 2, but only time will tell. So if we do end up getting more information about the game at this year's Summer Direct, the question we will now have to answer is, what will this showcase cover? I think the best case scenario is we will finally get to see the official launch trailer for the game, and we'll answer the main things people want to know. The first being, what is the actual name of the sequel? Fans have dubbed the game as Breath of the Wild 2, but the only name that Nintendo has communicated is the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is very much a placeholder. Next up, I think we will get our first extensive look at New Hyrule. With the Calamity defeated from the last game and the new evil rising from the dead, bringing parts of Hyrule up with them, I think we will see even more aspects of the new Sky Islands and structures, as well as see the new points of interest that were unearthed after the rise of Hyrule. From the gameplay reveals, we see Link and Zelda going underground, which was a hint that this game will have classic dungeons that we all loved from the previous installments. A lot of people hated the Divine Beasts and Shrines. I personally thought they were a great take on dungeons, but that might just be me. This game feels like they're going back to the basics of Zelda games with slightly more linear gameplay and story, so the launch trailer is really going to have to showcase to players that this is still the game they fell in love with, but will feature a slightly different formula. The last thing this showcase will need to answer is the release date of the game. Right now, everything points to a holiday season 2022 release date, but until Nintendo gives us the full date, it's a toss-up as to when it will release. The Nvidia leak we got recently confirmed the DLSS for the Nintendo Switch will be possible. It is in the API, which kind of confirms my previous sentiment that we actually won't get Breath of the Wild 2 until the Switch 2 or the Nintendo Switch Pro releases. If that ends up being the case, a release date of this year might not be on the table. Although a new Nintendo Switch dropping alongside both Breath of the Wild and Pokemon's Gen 9 would be absolutely game-changing, especially if the new Switch features DLSS, which would give both of those games a much-needed visual and performance increase. Now, what could happen is Nintendo uses the same strategy they did for the original Breath of the Wild. That being, they reveal a new Nintendo Switch that will launch sometime in March, likely March March 3rd of 2023, and then they'll hit us with a launch trailer for Breath of the Wild sequel that releases alongside the new Switch, which would basically mean we might not get any more news until they decide to announce the next Switch, which would indeed be really unfortunate, but I can easily see Nintendo doing that. Nintendo typically pairs games like Zelda and Mario, as well as Mario Kart, with the launch of new consoles. For the Nintendo Switch, it's been Zelda games. We saw it with the original Nintendo Switch launch that obviously released alongside Breath of the Wild, and then we got the Nintendo Switch Lite that actually released alongside The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, and then of course the Nintendo Switch OLED kind of changed things up, launching alongside Metroid Dread. Either way though, guys, like I said, it is very difficult to predict what Nintendo is going to be doing. Things could change another 3 times before we actually know what their strategy is going to be, and even then it might not still happen. What I will say though, guys, we are getting very, very close to Breath of the Wild 2. I cannot wait until the full reveal. I want to know what the name is so I could stop saying Breath of the Wild 2 or the sequel to Breath of the Wild. And furthermore, I want to know when it's going to be releasing because I am so excited for that game. If you're also hyped for Breath of the Wild, do me a favor, guys, subscribe to the channel with your notifications on, hit the like button. I'm going to be giving away a Nintendo Switch OLED, so definitely stay tuned to the uploads for whenever I announce that giveaway. But that's going to wrap it up with this video, guys. Thanks again for watching. This has been your boy Wes. Be sure to stay tuned to the channel for all of the latest news and information regarding the Nintendo Switch, as well as The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2.